Welcome to the Dartmouth Veterans Luncheon, which is an annual event. First, I'd like to have everyone, if they could, stand for the Dartmouth Police Honor Guard as they post the colors. Gentlemen. I'd like to call now Jim Collins.
Thank you, Jim. Please join me on the salute to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Again, welcome to all. If we could post the colors and get them situated, gentlemen, we do want to have our next speaker here, Reverend David Lima, who is going to provide the invocation. Reverend Lima is the Executive Minister of the Interchurch Council of Greater New Bedford. Reverend Lima.
It's always an honor to come and be at this luncheon, and I'm amazed at just how filled it is this year. I think we need to take a moment to pray for those combatants that are out there, those that are now soldiers, and those that are on the field of battle. And no, I'm not talking about Army, Navy. Just want to make sure we get that. To watch what we're seeing every night, unlike past years, just deepens our understanding even more of what you, all our veterans, have been through over the years. We can't thank you enough, and we should always remember your service to this country, to our families, to our community. Let's pray. Lord, as we gather here today, we are so grateful for those who have served overseas, in our country, around the world. Lord, we just ask that you would continue to be with them, strengthen them in their retirement. They're never retired. They continue to remember, they continue to always be patriotic and understanding, but we don't always remember them, and that's on us. So today, as we honor our veterans, we just thank you and ask you for blessings upon them, upon these proceedings, and upon all our future. And we pray for those who are losing their lives while defending their country. Father God, in Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Reverend. My name is Jim Phillips, and I am very pleased to be here today. I would like to thank Representative Chris Markey. You can be seated, by the way. Be seated now. I'd like to thank Representative Chris Markey and the Dartmouth Friends of the Elderly for sponsoring this luncheon. They have done a great job once again this year in being at the forefront of this event. And I'd like to thank really all of you, all of the servicemen and women who have served this country so gallantly and has always been there when they've been called. So thank you to all of you here today, and to all servicemen and women who are with us, and those who have passed on as well. Right now, I would like to tell you about lunch. Lunch will be served. Tables will be called, so don't leap up. Tables will be called. And we will have lunch, and then we'll continue with our program. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon once again. We are ready to proceed with the second part of our program. We are going to introduce all of our distinguished guests, really. We'd like for them to stand, and if you have a second, to applaud some of our distinguished guests, many of whom are town officials that you know. So let me start with our honored guest, the guest of honor, Colonel Daniel Arkins of the United States Army. He will be our guest speaker a little later. Colonel Arkins, thank you. Representative Chris Markey of Dartmouth. Chris. Representing Congressman Keating, who could not be here today, Michael Jackman. He may have left already. District Attorney Thomas Quinn. He had a speaking engagement in Fairhaven, but District Attorney Tom Quinn was here. Attorney General from the Attorney General's office, Judici Capataz is here with us. Is she here? Okay. Member of the Dartmouth, the members of the Dartmouth Board of Selectmen who are in attendance today, could they please stand? Members of the Dartmouth Board. There you go. Town Administrator Sean McInnes. All right, great. Police Chief Levesque. And Deputy Chief Vincent. Dartmouth Veterans Agent Matt Briette. The Dartmouth Veterans Advisory Board members. We know you're here. Please stand. Representatives of VFW Post 9059. The VFW Post 9059 Auxiliary. American Legion 307. Jim Reed of the Veterans Transition Housing. Coastline Elderly Service Staff. The staff from New England Medicare. Thank you. The Dartmouth Council on Aging Director, Amy DePietro. Fan favorite. And Angela Botello, who's the Assistant Director, and other staff members. If they would stand, please. Dartmouth Council on Aging Board of Directors. Members of the board. The Dartmouth Friends of the Elderly Board. We're now ready to begin our speaking program. We'll start leading off will be Representative Chris Markey of Dartmouth. Chris?
Thank you, Jim, and thank you all for coming today. This is one of those days that I truly enjoy being a state representative. I've probably said this before at other events where I get a chance to see the people who actually allow me to do what I'm doing, and you are the people who allow me to do what I'm doing, and your opinions and your beliefs are things that I carry with me when I try to make decisions in Boston. I think that the honored guest today, it's probably incredible. It's probably the most relevant time to hear from someone with his background and his commitment towards helping veterans, considering his 33-year history in the military, and considering the fact that what he does now, I don't think there's a more appropriate time to talk about the things that he's accomplished. First, in the last 4 weeks, I think collectively we have seen the incredible ugliness of war. And I don't think if anyone goes to bed without seeing images from videos or on the news, that they aren't impacted by that. And they're not impacted when they lay down and rest their head on the pillow to think about what had happened in a country far away and see young children injured and killed on both sides. And I keep thinking of the people who are actually there, and our veterans have been in those situations, whether it be in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq. And you think about the images that they carry day in and day out. I'm lying in my bed in South Dartmouth without a worry in the world, but I still think of that. And I can't imagine carrying those images with you for the rest of your life. And it's impressive that someone like Colonel Arkins is dedicated his now retired life, semi-retired life, to helping people carry those images and deal with those images day in and day out. As Director of Development with Home Base, which focuses on our veterans and making sure that they are cared for, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. And I think when we think about those things, I start to think about you guys and women and the sacrifices you've made. And the fact, this is what I would really want to say to you today is, you need to talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends, talk to your children, talk to your grandchildren, and remind them the importance of virtue. Remind them the importance of decency and honesty and trustworthiness. You are the people that they look to. You have done more in your lives than I ever could do, and you did it before you were 25. And so with that, talk to the young people and remind them when they see things on social media and they see things in the newspaper or online, remind them of virtue and goodness. Those are the things that we need right now. And I think our honored guest is someone who has carried that with him for the years in the military and the years after. Because there was a person who I respect a great deal back in the day who told me about leaving public service at one point when I did. And he said, it's time to go on and move on, but there'll be a time to return. But in between, you learned in your public service, go earn, and then you can return. And I think that is what Colonel Arkins has done in his life. He has learned a great deal in the military. He has earned, because he has sent kids to college. And now he's returning and giving everyone an opportunity to at least have some assistance when they return. So with that, just briefly, he has lived an honored, distinguished military career. There are many, many awards that he received and medals that he has received. I am not going to list them all, but the bottom line is he was a leader in the military. He is a leader now, and many, many people rely on him. And I think if there's someone who has virtue, trustworthiness, and decency, it's our honored guest, Colonel Arkins.
Yeah, I definitely don't deserve that, but Representative Markey, thank you so much. And to all the members of the Dartmouth Town Government, Chief, Matt, your Veteran Service Agent, all the Veteran Service organizations represented here today, staff and board of the Council on Aging and the Dartmouth Friends of the Elderly, thank you so much for having us here today. And Representative Markey's lead-in is absolutely, it's almost like we planned it, which we hadn't, but his comments about, the impact of war on our veterans and their families is something that's going to be central to my conversation today. I have to say, I felt really welcome here when the trash talk started about the Army Air Force. We had a little Army-Navy thing going on over here, so I feel very, very comfortable here today. But I'm also sure you were not expecting supply chain issues to impact the availability of general officers today. I have to say, they took the old colonel off the shelf, they dusted me off out of the warehouse and brought me out here. But Brigadier General Jack Hammond, our executive director, sends his regrets, but also his sincere appreciation for this opportunity to talk to you today. Now, it has been a while since I've been back to Dartmouth. I grew up in Portsmouth, Rhode Island, not too far from here, and at the time, malls were a pretty new thing. So the trip to the Dartmouth Mall was honestly quite a treat for me. And so for old time's sake, I'm going to swing by afterwards to see if the Orange Julius stand is still there, and I might get one of those. So I want to echo Jim's thanks to all of my fellow veterans. I'm always so grateful to the millions of American men and women who've put their lives on hold in defense of the nation. I'm exceptionally proud of the fact that I'm a first-generation American. My parents were both Irish immigrants. I followed in the footsteps of my dad, who served in the Korean War in the Army, and my son, the next generation, is a Green Beret, and he represents the third generation of my family to serve in the United States Army. Our story, and our story is by no means unique, and it speaks to military service as a thread that binds so many of us together. But I'd also be incredibly remiss if I didn't thank all of the spouses, parents, families, and friends whose support allows us to do our job. And I left my wife and 3 children for 2 years in an 8-year period between 2003 and 2011 when I served in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I have to say, Kate's service and sacrifice, and that of the kids as well, it was every bit as important as mine. So General Hammond asked me to speak to you today about our mission at home base and how incredibly important it is for private programs like home base to be available to provide innovative solutions and world-class care to our nation's warriors and their families. And now, honestly, some of this information can be a little heavy, but I promise there's a story of hope at the end of all this. And I really wanted to start with just some facts about our veterans population. We have 17 million living veterans in the United States across all service eras. And we have about 310,000 of those veterans live here in the Commonwealth. If we look back over the post-9/11 generation, we've had about 3 million men and women serve in the military since 9/11. Sadly, 1 in 3 of those veterans returns to the civilian world with an invisible wound, such as post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury, depression, anxiety, or substance use issues. We've lost 7,070 men and women in combat over the last 20 years in Iraq and Afghanistan. In that same period of time, for the post-9/11 generation, we've lost 35,000 service members to suicide. In that same period of time, we've lost 135,000 veterans of all service eras to suicide as well. Now let that sink in for just a minute. Almost 20 times the number of veterans killed in 2 decades of war have taken their own lives in that same period of time. As a nation, we have to figure out why our veterans and active duty service members see suicide as the last best option when we have one of the largest, best funded military and veterans healthcare systems anywhere. Now, I don't feel like I'm going too far out on a limb in saying that the solution doesn't rest just with the VA. There has to be private health programs backed by some of the finest academic teaching and research hospitals in the world. We need flexibility, agility, access to cutting-edge medicine, and a singular commitment to veterans and their families to be part of this equation. So if you're not familiar with Home Base, we're a national nonprofit program dedicated to healing the invisible wounds, and we're based at Massachusetts General Hospital. We were founded in 2009 in a partnership between the Boston Red Sox Foundation and MGH, and Home Base has provided care to over 35,000 veterans, active and reserve service members, and their families. We've treated patients from every state and 8 different international service locations. And all of these patients are dealing with invisible wounds. Like I said before, post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury, which is the signature injury of the post-9/11 generation of veterans, substance use disorder, anxiety, and depression. It's also a sad truth with the continuing epidemic of suicide among veterans and active duty military. We've had to develop specialized programming for the families of the fallen, those left behind in the wake of military suicide. Our program came from very humble roots as a regional program, but over 14 years, Home Base has grown to be a national program providing exceptional care to some of the most injured members of our military community. And all of this, including clinical care, wellness, training, education services, is all provided to our patients at no cost to them. Our friends at the VA have the following quote from President Abraham Lincoln mounted on their Washington, D.C. headquarters: "To care for him who shall have borne the battle, and his widow, and his orphan." Now, the intent is pure there, but the reality is that programs like Home Base have to exist to fill sometimes significant gaps in the military healthcare system and that of the VA. I want to be clear, we are not competitors with the VA. We complement the VA in delivering that world-class care to veterans and their families when the VA can't deliver that care or a patient prefers to pursue care outside of that system. And probably some of you are asking then, why do we need programs like Home Base? The Department of Veterans Affairs is the largest healthcare system in the United States. They have almost 1,100 clinics and hospitals. They have a budget for next year of $300 billion, of which $128 billion of that is earmarked for medical benefits. The VA employs almost 400,000 people just in their healthcare system, and over 9 million veterans are enrolled in that VA healthcare system. With that kind of investment, how are the needs of all U.S. veterans not being met? I have to put this in perspective. I mentioned before that while 9 million veterans are enrolled in the VA system, we have 17 million living veterans in the United States. Only about 45% of veterans receive some form of care from the VA. And there are a host of reasons why veterans don't use the VA. Quality perceptions, geographic distance to a VA facility, ability to get appointments, need for specialty resources, and frankly, some of them just have access to private insurance, so they don't have to use the VA. The bottom line, though, is that despite a massive healthcare system and a corresponding budget, over 50% of veterans don't receive their care from the VA. When it comes to specialty care, that number is even higher. So why wouldn't a veteran take advantage of this incredible medical system? Beyond the reasons I touched on above, there are some very real barriers to VA care that might prevent a veteran from seeking that care. Believe it or not, the character of a veteran's discharge may prevent or limit their access to health care through the VA. In order to receive VA benefits and services, a veteran has to have had a discharge that was service under honorable conditions, general, or in a small subset of discharge other than honorable conditions. If you have a bad conduct or a dishonorable discharge, you are likely not eligible for VA benefits. Now, studies show that about 6% of veterans receive other than honorable discharges or bad conduct or dishonorable discharges. That could be as many as 1 million veterans. Now, there's growing evidence that for many veterans who receive those discharges, the behavior that led to that discharge may be related to undiagnosed or untreated post-traumatic stress or traumatic brain injury. As a private program, home base does not limit care based on a discharge status. This is just one example of how a private program can fill gaps in veteran care where the VA cannot. Home base recognizes that family members are also impacted by their service members' invisible wounds. Family members are often ill-equipped to provide necessary support and care that veterans require as part of their journey to recovery. The VA was not designed to provide care for family members. For mental health conditions, there may be opportunities to receive family counseling through the VA, but spouses, domestic partners, extended family members cannot receive individual care at the VA. This is just another area where a private program, such as home base, can extend a helping hand to families without any restrictions. One particularly concerning area is the availability of resources for military families after the suicide of a loved one. While on active duty, there's some casualty assistance resources available to them, but these are time limited and focus primarily on immediate support for funerals, application for death benefits, and the like. The VA offers very limited support for family members of veterans in the event of a suicide. Support consists primarily of a referral to a private group or a resource that provides support to survivors, such as the Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors, or TAPS. Little is provided to deal with the incredibly complex grief that suicide produces. At home base, we know we could do more for these family members dealing with what is unimaginable for most of us. Working with our proven model of intensive care in partnership with TAPS, Home Base developed a 2-week intensive clinical model for survivors of suicide. 4 times a year, we bring 12 survivors, spouses, parents, adult children to our clinic in Charlestown to provide individual and group counseling with the goal of providing healing and hope for these people. This is still another example where a private program can meet a need where the military or the VA cannot. So you might ask, does the VA or government pay home base to deliver this world-class care? And the short answer is we are 85% funded by private charitable giving. We like to say we rely on a grateful nation to allow us to care for these veterans and their families. We do not receive VA funding, but we do have an embedded VA case manager to help our patients. Home base has been very fortunate to have received budgeted financial support from the Commonwealth for several years now. We were incredibly lucky to receive our first federal funding this year to support our work with special operations. Our staff and our patients are exceptionally grateful for this support, and we hope to see some more in the future. But the need is great, and if we look at the experience of our Vietnam veterans, believe it or not, many who have started receiving care at home base almost 60 years after their war, there's going to be a long, long tail of need for the services and support that home base is going to be providing for our post-9/11 generation of veterans. So what you get from home base is innovation, a focus on changing the way mental health and brain injuries are treated. We work with true leaders in these fields. We've been able to compress 2 years of clinical care into a 2-week model. We've created cutting-edge programs for our special operations community. We're embarking on programs to bring this care to underserved communities of rural veterans and Native American veterans. And at the same time, as a Harvard Medical School affiliated academic teaching hospital, we're doing research to create the next generation of care for our veterans. So hopefully I've been able to help you see that there really is a need for private programs. They need programs like ours to provide care to our veterans and their families. So in closing, my call to action to all of you is become an ambassador for home base. If you, a family member, a friend, needs help coping with the invisible wounds, reach out to us. We have a whole team standing by, ready to help. I do want to thank all the state legislators who have advocated for home base and our congressional delegation in helping us secure federal funding. Our motto at home base is, their mission is complete, ours has just begun. Please remember that all of us owe a huge debt and have received great benefits from the service and sacrifice of our military veterans and their families. So from all of us at home base, thank you for this opportunity to talk to you today, and I'd like to wish all of you a very happy Veterans Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel, for those remarks, very important remarks about a very important program. We move on with our program now. I'd like to reintroduce State Representative Chris Markey and from Congressman Keating's office, Michael Jackman, for a few words. Gentlemen?
Thank you, Jim. And Rep. Markey's going to let me speak since you already heard from him, but we're going to hear from him again. Just on behalf of Congressman Keating, who unfortunately could not be here today, this is always one of his favorite events. He's upset to be missing it, but I'm glad that I was able to come in his place. I'm also joined by my colleague, Selma Rosa, who is a veteran, a Navy veteran, and a district representative in our office, and she handles veterans casework for us, so we're very glad to have her here. Just really quickly, just to reiterate what a lot of people have said, thank you so much to our veterans. As Chris said, you know, the reason we still have a Congress, we have a democracy, is because of the sacrifice that our veterans have made fighting the wars that preserve democracy. So given that and the great occasion that we are here today, I'm going to turn it back over to Chris to talk a little bit about our recipient.
I rarely speak at these or just say thank you. Now you're getting me twice, which you might not come back next year. But then again, I know you're all from the South Coast, so it's a free lunch, so I'm sure you'll be here. We have a special guest we want to honor today that everybody knows in this room. I got to first meet him when I decided to run for office, and I thought he was on, and I'm being honest and genuine and hopefully virtuous, as I said before, but he was almost too good to be true. And I mean that genuinely. He always has a smile on his face. He always comes over to say, hi, how are you doing? And he doesn't do it just to me, but he does it to everybody in the room. And he has these deep conversations with individuals throughout a crowd, no matter where you are. And there's people who are attracted to talk to him and get close to him and speak with him. And he has, even though he probably doesn't know this, has provided me some great advice, especially early on when I decided to run and I was introduced to him. And it was an honor. And for the last now 13 years, it's been an honor to know him. He is an individual who served in the Air Force when he was a young man. He was in the Air Force for 8 years, served in Korea, Okinawa, and Japan. He worked at Otis for a long time, and then went into the private sector and did great things there, but he never left behind the veterans. He was instrumental in getting the Veterans Advisory Board. He was a veterans agent, and I can't, honestly, like when I met him, I couldn't believe he was that old, and I don't mean to be offended. But a ton of energy, a great human being, an honorable human being, a guy that the town of Dartmouth should be honored to have as a resident, that the town should be grateful for his service, and most importantly, someone that I can say that this person represents the best of Dartmouth, Massachusetts. And for that, I want to honor Jim Collins. So
This was a surprise indeed.
well, see, look at him, he's smiling already. We have a citation from the House of Representatives that recognizes Jim for his 70 years of dedicated service to his country, his community, as a service member, public servant, and exemplary citizen. So congratulations, Jim.
Thank you.
I know Mike has something from the congressman as well.
Oh, okay.
Straight places, yeah.
I've worked with you guys enough, so.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't known Jim as long as Chris has, but he's always been a great friend to our office and has always been an excellent advocate for veterans in Dartmouth and really all across our district. So on behalf of the congressman, I do have a citation from Congress to James Collins in recognition of your service to your country in the United States Air Force and your many years of service to the veterans in the town of Dartmouth. Signed by William R. Keating, Representative, 9th Congressional District, this 3rd day of November, 2023. Congratulations, Jim.
Thank you. And I'd just like to say on behalf of all you veterans, we accept these awards. Thank you so much, all of you.
We've got a brief list of speakers. We're almost finished. Don't worry. Selectman Stan Mickelson joins us now for a few comments from the selectmen. And Stan?
You sure I can? Can everybody hear me all right? So welcome from the Select Board of the Town of Dartmouth. Thank you for another sellout crowd. Thank you so much. I think I missed mentioning Maria Connor last year, and I haven't heard the end of it. So I had to suffer through an entire year of not thanking her. So let's give Maria Connor a big hand. Mr. Jackman, honored guest, Colonel Arkins, Matt Brule, State Rep Chris Markey. I think you all know who I am, obviously, and you know of my family's record as a veteran and served this country proudly. My uncle, my father and his brothers and brother-in-laws, myself as a member of the National Guard. And it's been a wonderful tribute for every year to come here and mention my parents, my father, and his brothers and brother-in-laws. But at hand right now is something that has been bothering me for quite a bit. Is services for our local veterans. The homeless rate is rising every day. There's not enough food for them to eat. They're on the street. And these are our Dartmouth residents. And this should not be happening under our watch. So I want to offer my help to Matt Brule, and whatever you need for services that you need to pass out, or new programs that we can go after, I'd like you to call me. I'll be in the office to help you. I mean that sincerely. It's important that every member of the town, every citizen of the town of Dartmouth, veterans especially, should not go homeless at all. So, with that said, I'll make it brief again. Thank you to all of you once more, and I hope to see you again next year.
Our next speaker is Matt Briette, who is the town veterans agent, and Matt has a few words for us.
Thank you, Jim. So, a little correction. We don't have any homeless veterans in Dartmouth. So, just wanted to let you know that. All right. I'm so pleased to be here, to be able to thank you all for your service. If I don't know you, my name is Matt Briette. I am the VSO here in Dartmouth. And for the rest of you, I've grown very close with. We've developed some really nice relationships, and for that, I'm very grateful. I'd also like to take the time to thank Chris and Maria for your generosity to the veterans this year, as you do every year with the Veterans Luncheon. And also, I just wanted to post about our Veterans Day event on November 11th. That'll be Saturday at 11 o'clock at the Council on Aging at the Memorial Grove, and that's located at the Maria Connor Center for Active Living. Refreshments will be served afterwards. Thank you for your time.
Well, we would be remiss if we didn't introduce Maria Connor. Maria is the person who organizes this event, along with some help from Representative Markey and the Dartmouth Friends of the Elderly. And Maria is advancing to the stage. Maria, thank you very much. Maria Connor. I do want to say one thing. I've been amazed, frankly, by her work in joining, really, the elderly and veterans. It's a wonderful partnership, and she has been instrumental in making that happen.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I only have one complaint. They don't make these things for short people. This doesn't just happen. There's a group called the Dartmouth Friends of the Elderly. They're sitting in that corner somewhere. Volunteers and board of directors that makes this possible. They're the ones who do all the fundraising for us to be able to put this on. So please stand up. And I'm also very grateful for our relationship with the Council on Aging. We are like family, and the way it's supposed to be to promote and to deliver the service that is needed in the community. So I want to thank all of you for being here. Hopefully, we're all healthy and we will be here again next year. I also would like to thank the DCTV crew who's always there, so other people who didn't make it can see what's going on. Dartmouth Week, who's always publicizing the events that we do. The Senior Scope, she's here, Beth Purdue. And of course, Rachel's from the Lakeside, which they always do a phenomenal job. Thank you so much.
Just a moment. You're not getting away that easy. Joe Toomey. Joe Toomey is here. And Joe is from, we're going to get this right now, VFW Post 9059. And I believe we have a presentation here.
Okay.
I'm Joe Toomey, and they told me that I was going to be last, but that I get to talk for 2.5 hours. And not to go over 1 minute over the 2.5 hours. Very strict, very strict.
That's when I shut off the mic.
The Dartmouth VFW, Post 9059, and the auxiliary from Dartmouth VFW really appreciate all of the support we get from the Friends of the Elderly because of the work they do, not just for the elderly, but for the veterans and the elderly veterans. We have a few of them too. And Maria Connor has always been the foundation of that. And I know they have a whole crew of people that do the work, and we really appreciate it. And as a veteran, I just want to thank everyone for when they come up to me, shake my hand, and say thank you for your service. It means a lot to the veterans who do come back from the war and do need to move on with their lives. We appreciate all the support. when I came back from Vietnam, from Cam Ranh Bay, 55 years ago. It wasn't that way. It's now getting better and better and better, and it's because of all of you that are people who appreciate what the veterans do for the country and for your community. And please don't be strangers at the VFW. Come on over. We'll charge you only double for the beer. Oh, I forgot. That Maria Connor lady. Maria, here's something to help you guys keep going on with what you're doing. And we would not be able to do what we do without the help and support from you guys. And we appreciate getting a chance to use the gazebo and all of the stuff at the COA.
Thank you.
And keep going.
We will. And of course, the man of the hour who actually kept us all in file here. Oh, we got one more donation? Would you like to say a few words?
Yeah. Yeah, this is from the American Legion 307, and we want to help you out with all your things that you do.
Thank you.
Very special.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. I can assure you that the donations will be well spent. And again, I was starting to say that everything went so smooth because the gentleman by the name of Jim Phillips. Thank you, Jim, for everything.
All right, that concludes our program. And really, I would like to, you're a wonderful audience. It's a pleasure to speak with you folks about veterans and things you care about, obviously, and the people who are doing such wonderful work in recognizing veterans, their needs, whether it's the Veterans Agent, Maria Connor, all these groups that are involved. Really, thank you very much for all that you do for the people of Dartmouth. And with that, we'll close our program. Please drive safely and have a wonderful rest of the day.